So recently, Court and I had the opportunity to sit down with a beloved friend, community member, supporter, producer, independent musician, JB, Johnathan Brown, PME, Purple Monkey Entertainment, who late last year dropped a EP and an album basically back to back. The man is on fire, making amazing music and amazing work, and has long been a part of the Carpool family. And we had the opportunity to chat with him about his origins, his influences. The music that you're hearing right now is his. He does incredible work. Links are in the video description. If you want to support JB's work, if you're not a fan already, I promise you will be by the end of this video. Very quickly, like and subscribe if you like the content we make here at Carpool, but I'm not going to make you wait any longer. We're going to head on over and we're going to chat with JB right now. All right, Court and I are super happy to be sitting down with JB, Johnathan Brown, Purple Monkey himself. You hear his name basically at the end of like every podcast we do. He's a longtime friend, supporter, and an accomplished musician. You just dropped late last year an EP and an album back to back. Everybody here on the Carpool team is bumping Video Game Boy like crazy. And so I gotta ask you, dude, like, how has everything been? Like, how has the response to Frozen Thoughts on Video Game Boy been for you, dude?
Firstly, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Really happy to be back in the grind of making music, because late last year, like probably like from October to December, it was really hard for me to even crank anything out music wise. So it was like I was just in a drought. So once I dropped Frozen Thoughts and I was getting a really good reception from that, I was like, okay. And I already had Video Game Boy planned. So like just doing it back to back, and then the response I'm getting now, like I just love it. And I'm really appreciative of everybody that's listening, everybody that's sharing, everybody that loves it. So yeah, I'm just very happy about that.
Yeah, dude.
So where do you get some of your inspirations from? Because we were joking before, like your music slaps. Like I would assume obviously some video games, but what games in particular? Like was it Nintendo? Was it early PlayStation? What inspired you the most?
Video game wise, I have a really like big background, just because growing up, like the very first console I remember playing was the SNES, but like as I got older, we had a Game Boy, PlayStation, and an Xbox in the house. So it was like I had kind of the best of all three worlds, but just the video games that I grew up with, like the tracks on those are fire. Mario Kart Double Dash is a really good soundtrack. Kingdom Hearts has always been good soundtracks. One that I've been listening to on repeat for probably like the past year, which every time I'm on camera, I have to bring up Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
It is one of my
It is one of my favorite games that on like the GameCube. So the soundtrack on that, like the Bossa Nova soundtrack, and it's kind of like really upbeat.
Oh my gosh.
I love that soundtrack so much. So a lot of those games, GameCube games, like Nintendo, mainly Nintendo though, to be honest. Sonic games, like all that is just, it inspired me as I went, So it is weird because I never really listened to it and was like, boom, this is my inspiration for it. Like it was never a direct comparison, but I just accidentally did it.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Accidentally on purpose, right?
Yeah, accidentally on purpose.
Now, have you ever gone back to the NES? Because I know the age makes you choose what you start with, but I think about, like, for me, the 8-bit, like one of the things that you always see on like TikTok and YouTube is that guy when he does the whole thing about GoldenEye, and he's like, this is like, I just need pause music, and it's such a good thing. But I think back to like Ghost and Goblins on the NES. Like, do people understand how good those Castlevania and NES music is? Mega Man, like
all of those are so good. Like that chiptune 8-bit music is so fire.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I gotta say, dude, when we asked this question, I did not think you were about to drop Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. My mind's a little bit blown right now. I love this.
That's
so
my
much.
Game right there.
I don't even know what that is.
Dude.
Hold on, I have the case. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, he's about to grab the game. That's an expensive game too, by the way.
I've been playing it recently. So I love this game. It was made by Sega, only put on the GameCube and like PC, and that's it.
So like, is what's better, the soundtrack or the game?
It's hard because the game is actually really good. The game is really good. Like for it being a GameCube game, it's really good. So
What a
But that
call out,
soundtrack.
dude.
Woo!
What a call out. Well, we've gotten into your roots a little bit with video games. Tell me a little bit about your roots as a musician. Like, when did you start making music? How did you kind of get your start? When did this kind of come about in your life?
Okay, so growing up, I was always in the church. I feel like that's most people's, a lot
Right.
of people's thing or whatever. Grew up in the church, singing, all that other type of stuff, and at a really young age, singing, dancing, all this stuff. So like, music has always kind of been around me, and it wasn't until I got to high school, probably middle school or high school, one of the two, where I was like, okay, like I'm gonna be a singer. Because at first I wanted to be a graphic designer, but that just kind of didn't work out for me because I just I couldn't keep up with what I was trying to do. So after high school, I ended up being like, okay, instead of me being a singer, I'm gonna just try producing instead. Kind of just dialed it down to that, because the process behind making music has always been interesting to me. So literally since 2019, well, I graduated 2018. 2019 is when I first started making music, when I dropped my very first single.
Jeez, you're just a young buck.
I really am. But yeah, so like after 2019, I've just been on a roll ever since. So like, music has always been in my life though. Grew up around gospel, R&B, hip hop, rap, all that type of stuff. And then getting older, I kind of explored getting into rock, dubstep, EDM, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
Have you ever gone back to your original music that you created and seen the progression of what you've done? Maybe even try and like go back to that album and be like, okay, so the first couple things I did, I could actually redo them and like do a remix on my original stuff.
I've thought about that before. I've 100% thought of doing that. And it's funny that you say that, because you asking, have I gone to the very first? I always go back to the very first beat. And it's always one in particular that I have. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is so trash. It's just so bad. And it's staying in my hard drive. No one's ever going to hear it. But it kind of motivates me, because you go back and you listen to what you used to do. And then like I listen to what I made now. Like I can listen to what I made yesterday. I'm like, yo, it's so much progression there. Like I've learned so much. I've like developed a sound kind of. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Like with the PlayStation Drive, I remember I messaged you and you're like, yeah, just give me like a couple hours. I'll get back to you. I'm like, what do you mean a couple hours? And then like you sent me like a sample. I'm like, oh my God. It's like I love creatives' minds. Like I've talked to Seth about this a bunch of times. I can always like think of ideas, but I can't do anything with them. You're able to like think of this idea and actually bring it to life, which is just it must feel amazing when that kind of thing happens.
It does, but it's hard too, because like my memory sometimes can be, a little short.
Sure.
So like I'll think of ideas sometimes, and then I'll be like, okay, when I get home, I'm gonna do this, and then I get home and completely forgot. I don't even know where the thought came from. I don't know where it is. It's just somewhere hidden in this big head of mine. So it's like, it's fun. And fun fact, I don't know if anyone has noticed this. I believe in the PlayStation Drive theme song, I actually used mainly sound effects from the PlayStation.
Yeah, well, you told me. I know because
I
you told
told
me.
you. Yeah. But I don't know if anyone else knows that. Like a lot of the sounds that I use in there are just like random little sounds throughout the PlayStation. And that's my favorite part of doing stuff like that. Where like even with the Xbox Drive, it's the same thing. Like I use sounds from the Xbox, and I always like doing stuff like that because it challenges me creatively, to sit here and give myself a very limited palette of things to work with. It's always fun to do that. It gives you that little bit of like push. It gives you that challenge,
What a good, that's a really cool take on that process. I want to circle back to something you mentioned, and that was finding your sound. And I'm curious not only what you consider your sound to be, but how you landed on it. Like, when did you say, okay, like this is me? Like when you kind of hit that confidence stride, this is what my sound is. This is my signature.
So my first two projects, 2020 and Player One, both of those are kind of like on the lo-fi side of stuff. And when I first started, that was my goal. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make lo-fi music, because lo-fi beats, that was kind of like, that just was beats. And I didn't really think about trying to explore and be like, okay, well, let me try and like make it upbeat. Let me do this. But then as I grew, I started to figure out more people like Decap, who are like producers, Decap, Kalen Ellis, like Eldre. It was a couple other, it's a lot of them who like I just kind of fell into it. I'm like, oh, like these guys are doing it, why can't I do it? So when I was making In My Element, the album and the song specifically, once I made the song In My Element, I was like, oh, this is me. Like, this is exactly how I want my music to sound. So like from then on, that was when I was at my top. I was like, this is like, I'm going to produce music just like this. Like I have this bounce, like this kind of like upbeat, playful type of vibe. And it does have that bit of a video game influence. And I think that does help, you know, like a lot of video games from like Nintendo mostly are like, they have these upbeat and it's like this triumphant type of feel to it. So kind of inherently taking that in and then using that to my advantage.
All right, I want to take, so I have a challenge for you, because PlayStation is very dark. Like a lot of their games have a dark tone. Even Uncharted, when you really think about it, he's just a mass murderer. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of crazy things going on. Have you ever thought of taking something that the source material is very dark, like The Last of Us or Uncharted, and trying to flip it and making that sound and turning it to more upbeat and like almost like call it like I call it whatever you want, but just the Good versus Evil album, where you just like you take like this song that when you hear it, it's synonymous with something spooky or scary or dark or terrible, and you make it like synonymous with like upbeat and happiness.
I've thought about doing that, and I feel like I've probably done that inherently. Now I'm thinking about it. I think yesterday I kind of did the opposite. I was texting my friend James Gams. I don't know, you may have seen him, around and stuff like that. But I was making a beat and I accidentally put Zelda's Lullaby in it. But instead of making it a major key, I made it a minor key. Major basically is kind of like the happier version of stuff, and the minor key is kind of taking like certain notes and like putting them down a little bit. So I was playing it and I was like, why does this sound so familiar to me? And I sent it to him and he was like, duh, it's Zelda's Lullaby. I was like, oh, that's where it's from. So yeah, like I just completely, but I've done it the opposite way. I haven't thought about doing it the other way though,
Interesting. Yeah, just make like The Last of Us, but everybody's happy and hugs and it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's like they're running through a field of flowers and everybody's just like everybody's hugging each other.
Yeah, it's all of us.
Come on, get happy.
It's all of us.
Yeah, instead of The Last of Us, it's all of us.
It's the first of us.
Oh my gosh, dude. I love what you're doing, and I thought it was so impressive. Again, late last year, you're like, here's an EP, which is very much kind of Frozen Thoughts is like, to me anyway, like lo-fi JB, this is your roots kind of thing. Like this is like almost a throwback, right? And then Video Game Boy, which is a completely different flavor, but like it still feels like you. And I'm curious what that was like for you to release something that was kind of a throwback and something that was entirely new. Like what, a week, 2 weeks between releases or something like that?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy, because not many people know this. Probably like 1 or 2 people do. But there was another project that I had planned to drop before Frozen Thoughts. And it was going to be, because I couldn't put it on streaming services, but it was going to be a video game remix tape. So the idea was supposed to be, I drop the video game remix tape, we go back to the lo-fi roots, and then I hit you with something new,
Yeah.
So that was the idea, but I couldn't exactly get like all the songs from the video game tape, and I was kind of procrastinating too. Me getting in that rut really didn't help, so it was like, because all the songs for Frozen Thoughts and Video Game Boy, those were done already. Like all those were finished. I just need to put like tiny little finishing touches on it, and I was able to, I plan all my stuff ahead, so that was the original plan, but I think it worked in my favor because a lot of people probably hadn't listened to my music beforehand. So me dropping Frozen Thoughts was kind of like, okay, here's what I usually do, and then here's something new. Like, here's what I'm working towards. And even my next project that I'm working on already, like I already have the plan for it because I made the first song for it last year. Even that is completely different from what I'm doing right now, or from what Video Game Boy was. So I'm always trying to do new things. I've realized that I can't just stick with one thing.
It's good.
I'm very interested about the process. Like you say that you've already made a song last year that's going to be on something that you're working on this year. Like, what is your creative process? Like, could you be whipping up a song like in a day, or is it taking time, or is it, like you said, some things get lost in your mind, all of a sudden it comes back, you're like, I gotta get this down right now?
It depends. It's very here and there with the process. Sometimes I'll be sitting here and I'll just like have no idea what I'm gonna do, and I'll be like, okay, let me just try and make some chords, and then I'll end up making chords, and I'm like, okay, let me just add some drums, and then it'll just end up being something, it'll end up being something. And sometimes I'll do that and I'll just be like, this is trash. I am not no one's gonna hear this. But a lot of times samples do help too. It's a platform called Splice, and it's like a whole database with just like kind of samples and like, drum loops, song starters, stuff like that. And I'll hear stuff in there and I'll be like, okay, let me use this. Let me see what I can do with this. And I'll end up doing that. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll do stuff at my job. My job is kind of cool with me bringing my laptop to work every once in a while. Like the song City on Video Game Boy was probably that song was what had me in my mind. I was like, okay, this is when I start the project. So I ended up making the chords for that. And then I vividly remember I was making the chords and I was like, I don't know what to do with it. And I was just kind of singing it in my head. And then I went to go get up and make food. And like, I just started going. And I was like, oh no. I just literally the whole time I'm making food, I like every time someone come and talk to me, I'm like, shut up. I just kept doing this drum loop in my head. And when I got down to my computer, I put it down and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like this right here is the start of this project. So and it's crazy because even with like probably the first couple of songs, like Princess and Flowers, those were older songs. I had made those the year before. So it's kind of just coincidental that it all kind of fit into this narrative of being like, these are kind of video game related songs,
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there anything, because you say you're already like hard at work on the next thing and everything. Is there anything you want to talk about with the upcoming project that you want people to kind of know about? Is there a vibe that you're going for? Is there any sort of like release timing you're thinking of? What's going on? Give us the scoop,
okay.
JB.
So I have one song that I wanted to put on Video Game Boy, but I kind of just I like to say that, oh, I just didn't finish in time, kind of forgot about it. So I'm gonna release that. I am gonna have one of my homies who is also an artist, Dark Humor Music. I asked him to do some keys for me on this, and I do plan on releasing that song. Like, it's just gonna be a single.
Yeah.
But usually I drop a project every year on my birthday. So the next project is probably going to be on my birthday unless I decide to do this video game project. But the one that's coming out next year on my birthday is going to be really hip hop heavy. It's going to be a lot of sample chopping and all that other type of stuff. That's my plan.
Right. All right.
So if hopefully, everything goes to plan and y'all will be able to get this, this real grungy hip hop album out of me.
Yeah. That sounds good to me, dude. Well, look, we all love it here at Carpool. We're super happy for you, and it's cool to even see like you posted like the stats of Video Game Boy and stuff, and you're doing well, dude, and we're excited to see you continue to grow. And I want to encourage people again. We talk about it all the time, but we just want to point people in your direction. Go listen to Video Game Boy, JB's stuff. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, and JB, how can people follow you and keep up with you online?
All right, so I am on Instagram. It is pme.jib. I'm also on Twitter. It is pmejib without the dot. I do have my link tree in both of those, so you can go on there, find all my other stuff. You can go to my YouTube as well, because my YouTube is about to be popping this year.
Oh, snap.
youtube.com/PMENT, because it's Purple Monkey Entertainment. So, yeah, for sure. Just follow me there and, just come vibe with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, dude. Well,
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. And there's obviously going to be links in the description. Yeah, dude. Thanks so much for your time. Super fun.
Heck, there's links in every one of our shows.
That's true.
Yes, I'm there.
You're there. Well, thanks so much for your time, dude. We appreciate it.
Of course.